The playground was alive with laughter, the squeak of swings, and the rush of sneakers against the ground. But in the middle of all that joy sat a little girl in a wheelchair, her hands folded tightly in her lap, her eyes fixed on the children who ran past her as if she were invisible. Her face was a mixture of longing and resignation, too young to accept such isolation, yet too aware that this had become her reality. Her name was Emily. She was 8 years old with a heart-shaped face, soft brown curls, and eyes that shimmered like glass. She hadn't always been in a wheelchair. Just a year earlier, she had been the one chasing the kids, sliding down the tallest slides and begging for just 5 more minutes before going home. But an accident, a careless driver on a rainy evening, had left her paralyzed from the waist down. Since then, her world had shrunk. Children she once called friends no longer knew how to include her. Some whispered, some pitied, and most simply drifted away. Her father, Daniel, the CEO of a major tech company, tried everything money could buy: special equipment, therapy, even private tutors. But he couldn't buy the one thing his daughter needed most: companionship. On that sunny afternoon, Daniel sat on a bench near Emily, dressed in his immaculate suit, tie loosened from a long day. He wasn't there to impress anyone. He just wanted his daughter to feel normal again. But as he watched her stare at the playground, his chest tightened. She looked like she was drowning in a sea of laughter she could never touch. "Daddy," Emily whispered, her voice barely audible, "they don't want to play with me." Daniel felt the words like a dagger. He swallowed hard and forced a smile. "That's not true, sweetheart. They just don't know how amazing you are yet." Emily turned her face away, blinking back tears. She wasn't convinced, and deep down, neither was he. That was when a man in worn jeans and a simple t-shirt walked into the park, holding the hand of a little girl with messy pigtails and grass-stained shoes. His name was Mark, and he was a single father, raising his daughter Lily on his own after losing his wife to cancer 3 years earlier. Life hadn't been easy for him. He worked long shifts as a mechanic, balancing bills and bedtime stories, but he never let Lily feel the absence of love. As soon as they arrived, Lily spotted Emily. Unlike the others, she didn't just glance and move on. She stopped, tilted her head curiously, and tugged on her father's hand. "Daddy," she said in a voice loud enough to carry across the grass, "why is that girl sitting all alone?" Daniel stiffened, preparing himself for another sting, another awkward moment when a child would point out Emily's difference. But what happened next was different. Mark knelt to Lily's level. "Sweetheart, maybe she doesn't have someone to play with. Do you think she'd like it if you asked her?" Lily's eyes lit up. "Can I?" Mark smiled gently. "Of course, go on." With the fearless kindness only children seem to have, Lily ran straight up to Emily's wheelchair and grinned. "Hi, my name's Lily. What's yours?" Emily blinked, startled. It had been so long since anyone her age had spoken to her without hesitation. Emily," she said softly. "Wanna play with me?" Lily asked, as if it were the most obvious question in the world. Emily glanced at her chair and then at the playground, her throat tightening. I can't," she whispered. Lily shrugged. "So what? We'll play something else. We can draw in the dirt or play pretend, or, we could make up a story." Emily's lips trembled, and for the first time in months a small laugh slipped out. It was quiet, almost uncertain, but it was real. From the bench, Daniel watched, stunned. He hadn't seen that laugh in so long it nearly broke him. Mark walked over and gave Daniel a nod. "Mind if my daughter joins yours?" Daniel's voice caught in his throat. He cleared it quickly. "Of course, thank you." The two men sat side by side, watching their daughters. Lily knelt in the grass, drawing shapes with a stick while Emily joined in, her wheelchair forgotten as their giggles filled the air. "She's been through a lot," Daniel admitted quietly, his voice heavy with unspoken pain. "The accident changed everything. I try, but I can't give her what she really needs." Mark nodded slowly, his gaze still on the girls. "You're giving her more than you think. She just needed someone her own size to remind her she's still a kid." The two men fell into conversation, and as the minutes stretched into hours, Emily and Lily became inseparable. They made up stories about magical kingdoms, built imaginary castles with twigs, and laughed until their sides hurt. When the sun began to set, Emily's cheeks were flushed from joy. She looked up at her father, eyes sparkling in a way he hadn't seen since before the accident. "Daddy," she said breathlessly, "can we come back tomorrow, please?" Daniel's heart swelled. "Of course, sweetheart, as many times as you want." Over the weeks that followed, the park became their meeting place. Emily and Lily grew closer, and so did Daniel and Mark. Their lives were so different, one a wealthy CEO with every resource, the other a mechanic scraping by, but they found common ground in their love for their daughters. One evening, Emily confessed something that made Daniel's throat tighten. "Daddy, before I met Lily, I thought I'd be alone forever." He hugged her tightly, fighting back tears. "You'll never be alone, Emily, not as long as I'm here, and now you've got Lily too." The friendship blossomed into something beautiful. Lily's energy and imagination helped Emily forget her chair. Emily's quiet wisdom gave Lily a sense of calm and thoughtfulness she didn't always have. Together, they filled the spaces in each other's lives that had been empty. For Daniel and Mark, it was a reminder that money, status, or struggle didn't matter when it came to the things that really counted: kindness, compassion, and love. Months later, at the school talent show, Emily rolled onto the stage with Lily at her side. While the other kids sang or danced, the two girls performed a storytelling act they had created together. Emily's voice was strong and confident as she narrated their tale of two princesses, one who walked, one who rolled, who built a kingdom where no one was ever left out. When the audience erupted in applause, Daniel stood with tears streaming down his face, clapping harder than anyone. He looked over and saw Mark cheering just as loudly, pride glowing in his eyes. That night, as they walked out of the auditorium, Emily reached for her father's hand. "Daddy," she whispered, "I'm happy." And for Daniel, that was everything. It didn't matter how much money he had or what title was attached to his name. What mattered was that his daughter had found joy again, because one little girl and one single dad had the courage to see past her chair and into her heart. The world had taught Emily to expect silence, pity, or rejection, but that day in the park when Lily said, "My daughter would love to play with you," everything changed. And in that change, a powerful truth was revealed. Sometimes healing doesn't come from therapy, wealth, or grand gestures. Sometimes it comes from a simple act of kindness, spoken by a child who just wanted a friend. And from that moment forward, Emily was never alone again.